Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Tension is escalating between Israel's new government and the Biden administration. The two sides have very different views on key issues, including the creation of a Palestinian state.
Benjamin Netanyahu and his Likud party have been given the go-ahead to form their new government. Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem on what to expect.
As part of his presidential duties, Isaac Herzog met with all the parties that qualified for the next parliament and asked who they wanted to form the next coalition. A majority chose Likud, which means Benjamin Netanyahu is slated to become Israel's next prime minister. Netanyahu's political comeback represents a choice by many Israelis for a safer country and one with a greater Jewish identity. It also represents a big shift from the former government of Yair Lapid, with its center-led parties, along with an Islamist party.
This time, a right-wing coalition won a very clear majority in the government. Now, with the religious and right-wing parties winning a majority, liberals around the world, and particularly in America, are saying that this government is a threat to democracy, that this government is the end of an open, liberal Israel, that this government is going to result in a harming of ties between Israel and America.
Already, the U.S. is pushing back on policies the new government may consider. U.S. Ambassador Tom Nye says the U.S. will oppose any attempts to annex parts of Judea and Samaria, also known as the West Bank. And the State Department condemned Itamar Ben-Gvir for participating in an event celebrating the legacy of Meir Kahane and his organization that's designated as a terrorist group. CBN News political analyst John Waggy says the new coalition is likely to find itself on the opposite side of the White House on a number of issues.
First of all, be the two-state solution. I mean, the Biden administration has clearly been moving in a direction where they want to press Israel again to negotiate with the Palestinians and to move toward a two-state solution. That's not something that any Netanyahu government for the last 12, 13 years has been interested in.
Kontorovich says in light of the results, the Biden administration should respect the will of the people.
The people vote for a right-wing government, so when the United States president says, hey, you better watch out, if you make a right-wing government, it can harm our ties, that's essentially telling Netanyahu to ignore the will of the Israeli people, to ignore the democratic electoral expression of that will. That's undemocratic.
Netanyahu hopes to form his new government next week before the Knesset comes back into session. And then Netanyahu's coalition will begin to face its likely disagreements with the White House. Gordon?
Well, Chris, President Biden waited almost a week to congratulate Netanyahu. Is there concern among Israeli leadership about relations with the U.S.?
Yes, Gordon, I think it is a concern, and it could be a big concern and not so big concern for others. But it did send a signal when President Biden waited almost a week to congratulate Netanyahu. Some noted he actually called the head of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, before he called Netanyahu. But, you know, Netanyahu, he's a master politician and statesman, and he's sort of navigated these troubled waters before with the U.S. and Israel. He's dealt with President Obama. They had a rocky relationship over the Iran nuclear deal. And so Netanyahu, I think, with his decades of experience in dealing with U.S. presidents and administrations, he can handle the situation now.
Well, let's talk about the specifics of the Obama administration. Under Obama, he sent political operatives to Israel in order to defeat Netanyahu. He used U.S. assets to do that and interfere with their elections. Are you anticipating any action like that by the Biden administration?
Well, you know, before the election, Gordon, it was clear that actually the Biden administration was favoring the government of Yair Lapid. The maritime agreement between Israel and Lebanon was something that the U.S. had pressured the Lapid government to go ahead and do, presumably so they could get that in before the election and hopefully maybe assist Yair Lapid. And as you said, several years ago, it was the Obama administration that actually spent thousands of dollars from the State Department to go ahead and help Netanyahu's opponents. And so that's a clear violation, actually, of what the State Department should be doing. As you said, they sent operatives over there. I think the Biden administration, with many of the same people in key positions, really will probably resist what the Netanyahu government wants to do.
Well, didn't that agreement with Lebanon actually kill the previous government. I mean, they got nothing. They gave up sovereign territory. They gave up a natural gas field and literally got zero. Isn't that part of the reason they lost?
It was part of it. I think on the Lapid government, it was a calculation, you know, could this improve our chances? It did seem, though, they didn't get much of anything or nothing. They gave most everything to Lebanon, which is basically Hezbollah-controlled country. And yet this was the influence, many believed, for the Biden administration to pressure that, and also to pressure Yair Lapid to go to the UN and say, we want a two-state solution, something no prime minister had done in years.
Well, let's talk about the two-state solution. It looks like there's going to be pressure on Netanyahu's government to push for a Palestinian state. But it's just amazing to me they don't seem to want to push the Palestinian Authority. No Palestinian Authority has ever agreed to a Palestinian state. So why isn't the pressure coming on the Palestinians?
Well, that hasn't been happening for a long time, Gordon, and it seems like it's a double standard. Israel gets all of the pressure. The Palestinian Authority, if you look at what they say officially, not only criticizing Israel and the Jewish people, but actually encouraging terrorism. And so I think right now the coalition that looks like it's going to be set up really doesn't see the Palestinian Authority as a real partner for peace. And I think it's unclear how long that's going to happen. I think what the Netanyahu government has its own priorities. The U.S. may want a two-state solution. Netanyahu wants to have peace with Saudi Arabia. He wants to bring in more Arab countries into the Abraham Accords. And number one, Gordon, would be they want to stand strongly against a potential nuclear Iran.
All right, well, let's talk about another area where there might be some hypocrisy, where the Biden administration, the State Department, just came out and said we can't support anyone for the cabinet that has ties to a terrorist organization. So they're talking clearly about Kohane. They're talking about his legacy and the support of one of the politicians that could be a part of Netanyahu's government who actually honored him and went to a memorial service. So where is the same standard for the Palestinian Authority and Hamas and Hezbollah and their support for terrorism, their active funding of terrorists, the funding, the Shaheed payments, the martyr payments that go out regularly? Is there a bit of hypocrisy here?
Well, there does seem to be a big double standard, and you only have to go back, Gordon, to the last government, which was propped up by an Islamist party called Ra'am. Now, we're talking about Itamar Ben-Gvir, who in former times, when he was a youth, was a supporter of Mir Kahane, now a convicted terrorist. He was assassinated in 1990. But in the former government, you had Ra'am, and they were part of the Islamic Brotherhood, the Muslim Brotherhood. So it didn't seem like it really mattered to the Biden administration or many other countries that government had what in a sense was something that was opposed to the existence of the state of Israel and the Jewish state. Now, when you have Itamar Ben-Gvir and several others that are considered extreme, there's a lot of pushback against the Netanyahu government not wanting to have some of these people in key positions in the next coalition.
Well, let's go back in history. Menachem Begin, who signed the Camp David Accords, the peace with Egypt, Anwar Sadat, he was part of a group that blew up the King David Hotel back during the British Mandate, and somehow or other he got to the peace table and was able to sign an historic agreement. Are we just ignoring the history and saying, well, we can't deal with people with, if they have backgrounds, there's no way we can deal? Is this ignoring the obvious history of the region?
Yeah, before people get into office, there's all sorts of conjecture what they will or won't do. You're talking about the Irgun, and they bombed the King David, which is just a few blocks away from where we are now. But you will see exactly what Itamar Ben-Gvir and others in the government will do once they get in. They have said, Itamar Ben-Gvir said that we recant some of the things he said earlier, and that he's going to represent all of Israelis. So we'll see what happens, just like we saw historically with Menachem Begin when he got into office and made that key peace deal with Egypt.
Well, Chris, thank you for being there. Thank you for being in the epicenter, and thank you for keeping us informed. This is obviously a time for Christians to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. In other news, former President Trump is expressing disappointment that the red wave turned out to be a ripple. Ephraim Graham has that story from the CBN newsroom. Ephraim?
Gordon, many Republicans blame the former president in part for the lack of a red wave, saying he backed weak candidates. And Trump has been attacking his chief GOP rival in 2024 Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. In a statement last night, Trump again called him Governor Ron DeSanctimonious, an average Republican governor with great public relations. As Matt Galka reports, some Trump advisors want him to hold off on announcing another run for the White House.
It appears Donald Trump expected to ride a red wave of momentum toward another White House bid announcement. But since no wave emerged, that timing could be in doubt. At the very least, people in his own party are recommending he hold off until possibly December.
Actually, they were hoping for big losses, but that's not happening. So the numbers have been amazing so far.
Trump expressed confidence election night, but has since called the results disappointing. A predicted red wave for Republicans waned, leaving control of Capitol Hill still up in the air. While he saw some wins, high-profile Senate candidates Trump endorsed floundered. Mehmet Oz in Pennsylvania lost outright. Herschel Walker in Georgia is heading for a runoff, and Blake Masters in Arizona trails in a race still too close to call. Those results possibly amplified by Trump's pre-election promise.
I'm going to be making a very big announcement on Tuesday, November 15th, at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida.
Speculation about making another White House run public at this point is now being openly questioned by Trump confidants. Former Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany recommends holding off until the Georgia Senate runoff is decided.
I think he needs to put it on pause, absolutely. Look, he'll make that decision, he'll make his own decision, but
does he go to Georgia?
If I'm advising any contender, DeSantis, Trump, whomever, no one announces 2024 until we get through December 6th.
In an interview with the Philadelphia Inquirer, retiring Republican Senator Pat Toomey cast some blame on the former president, saying, quote, "I think Donald Trump's influence gradually but steadily declines, and I think it accelerates after the debacle that he's responsible for to some degree." A Karl Rove op-ed in the Wall Street Journal called some of Trump's endorsements knuckleheads, without proper vetting from the former president.
Here's my answer to Karl Rove. I mean, it's blah, blah, blah. The Democrats have been after Trump for the longest time. The media has been after Trump. The establishment Republicans have been after Trump. And guess what? There's the trifecta. They're all coming against Trump. So they're spinning this as this was a bad night for Trump.
Virginia Republican Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears saying outright to Fox Business that it was time to move on.
You know, the voters have spoken, and they have said that they want a different leader. And a true leader understands when they have become a liability. A true leader understands that it's time to step off the stage, and the voters have given us that very clear message.
The other elephant in the room is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who didn't need Trump to cruise to a decisive victory.
Thanks to the overwhelming support of the people of Florida, we not only won election, we have rewritten the political map.
That puts him in an even stronger position as a potential frontrunner for the Republican presidential nomination in 2024. Trump already nicknaming DeSantis at a rally before the midterms.
Trump at 71, Ron DeSanctimonious at 10%.
The potential showdown and infighting already delighting Democrats.
Who do you think would be the tougher competitor?
It'll be fun watching them take on each other.
For what it's worth, Trump took to his social platform, Truth Social, to say that he was not angry about the midterm results and that he was, quote, very busy looking into the future. Matt Galka, CBN News.
Turn now to disaster recovery efforts underway in Florida after Hurricane Nicole came ashore Thursday. At least 5 people are dead, and severe erosion caused by powerful storm surge sent multiple beachfront homes collapsing into the ocean. Nicole weakened to a tropical storm but dropped half a foot of rain, causing major flooding. More than 40,000 were without power early today. Operation Blessing is on the scene, still in the state, helping residents recover from Hurricane Ian last month.
We still have active volunteer work taking place, working on homes with either
tarping, debris removal, and some of the jobs were also removing, the wet drywall, mucking and gutting.
Operation Blessings teams are also on standby to respond to any needs people have now. Gordon.
If you want to be a part of helping people through Operation Blessing, you can give to the Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund. You can mail us at CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia, 23463. Just put Disaster Relief Fund in the memo line of a check. You can text OBDR to 71777, or you can call us, 1-800-700-7000. Do it now. Be part of the relief effort.